At 5:58, on a cool spring evening, Xia Wei stood beside a supermarket freezer with a bag of frozen buns tucked under one arm and a stack of missing person flyers under the other. She called a coworker to ask how long the buns should steam without turning soggy. The answer made her laugh. She promised to bring leftovers the next morning, straightened one wind-bent flyer near the entrance, and started walking home before her husband could complain that dinner was late again. The flyer showed 5 people at a family banquet. Xia Wei was the youngest, smiling beside her husband-to-be. Her parents stood behind them, and her older brother leaned toward the camera, as though he had arrived after everyone else. 3 of those faces had been missing for 6 months. Xia Wei had stopped telling friends she expected them to return, but she still replaced every flyer the weather damaged. That evening, she carried the last fresh copies into her apartment building. On the 3rd floor, she set the groceries beside the door and listened. Nothing moved inside the apartment. Across the hall, a television audience laughed behind a neighbor's wall. Xia Wei unlocked her door, entered the small living room, and tied the 2 handles of the grocery bag into the neat knot she always used. Beside it lay a brown envelope marked with 3 red lines, questions she had not yet answered about the day her family vanished. Her phone buzzed with a message from Chen Ming. Still at the shipyard. 20 minutes. Don't start without me. Xia Wei recorded a reply, telling him the buns might not survive that long. Then someone knocked. Not the quick double tap Chen used when his hands were full. 3 evenly spaced knocks, followed by silence. Xia Wei approached the door without opening it and asked who was there. A woman answered through the wood using her mother's full name. Through the narrow opening, Xia Wei saw a woman in a red coat, her hair hidden beneath a cap, and her face covered by a pale mask. She carried no delivery bag. One gloved hand rested against the frame. The woman said she knew something about the missing family, then described a detail from an old photograph that had never appeared on the flyers. Xia Wei looked back at the brown envelope. After a long pause, she slid the security chain free. At 6:10, Xia Wei's coworker called back to correct the steaming time. The phone rang on the living room floor until the call ended, fixing the final known window at 12 minutes. Later that evening, Chen Ming climbed the stairs with grease beneath his fingernails and called his wife before reaching the landing. He heard her ringtone through the apartment door. He waited for footsteps, for the lock, for Xia Wei to tease him about forgetting his key. The apartment remained silent. The first thing he saw was the grocery bag torn open beside the entryway. Frozen buns had rolled beneath the coffee table. One handle still held Xia Wei's careful knot, the other had been ripped loose. Her purse lay several feet away, its contents scattered toward the hallway. Chen called her name, stepped around a dark smear on the floor, and followed the overturned objects toward the bedroom, without understanding what they were showing him. He found Xia Wei beside the bed, partly turned toward the balcony door. Blood darkened her blouse and the floor beneath her, but her right hand remained clenched, as if she had carried something through the struggle. Chen dropped his phone, reached for her, then stopped when he saw how still she was. He called emergency services from the floor. While the operator spoke, he kept saying his wife had been alive when she bought dinner, as though repeating that fact could pull the evening backward. Patrol officers arrived first and drew Chen into the hallway before paramedics entered. Neighbors opened their doors, then closed them when they saw the uniforms. Nothing valuable appeared to be missing. The lock was intact. The windows were closed, and no one had forced the balcony door. By the time Detective Lin Kai reached the 3rd floor, the building had become quiet enough for him to hear Xia Wei's phone vibrating beneath the edge of the sofa. Lin stopped at the threshold instead of walking directly to the bedroom. The purse, the torn grocery bag, and the blood formed a broken line from the door to the hallway. A smaller stain marked the wall where someone had reached for balance. Near the bedroom entrance, a partial shoe print pointed inward, not out. Lin asked the scene photographer to capture the entire path before anyone moved a single object. The apartment was already describing the attack. Dr. Su Ning arrived with the forensic team shortly before midnight. Under Xia Wei's fingernails, she found tissue that did not belong to the victim. A pale fiber clung to one nail, and another had caught on the torn strap of the purse. Near the bedroom door, the partial print came from a flat shoe, smaller than Chen Ming's. None of it identified a person yet, but together the traces gave Lin the first outline of whoever had entered. Chen waited downstairs in a patrol car, turning his wedding ring while an officer recorded his movements. Lin checked the shipyard logs, the gate camera, and Chen's calls before returning to the apartment. On the table beneath the brown envelope, he found the missing person flyers Xia Wei had carried home. He lifted the top sheet and recognized the family name. 6 months earlier, he had signed the form that sent their disappearance to a quieter department. Now the only relative still searching was dead. Lin carried the old file into the building's temporary command room and opened it beside the new crime scene photographs. 6 months earlier, Xia Wei's parents and older brother had vanished on the same morning. Their homes showed no forced entry, their cars remained nearby, and no confirmed bank activity followed. The case had been treated as a coordinated departure because 3 adults were missing together. Now Lin circled one sentence and read, "Xia Wei never believed they had left willingly." Officers reconstructed Xia Wei's final hour. A market camera showed her leaving with groceries at 5:42. The building entrance recorded her at 5:51, alone. Her co-worker received the call at 5:58 and heard nothing unusual. At 6:10, the unanswered callback rang inside the apartment. Chen Ming's shipyard badge placed him across town until 6:03, and traffic cameras showed his motorcycle turning onto their street at 6:17. The 12-minute window survived its first test. That morning, Lin interviewed Chen in a plain room overlooking the station courtyard. Chen admitted he and Xia Wei had argued about the missing family. She spent evenings checking rumors, calling strangers, and revisiting places the police had already searched. He wanted her to rest, but he had never asked her to stop completely. When Lin placed the brown envelope on the table, Chen recognized the red marks. Xia Wei used them for details she could not verify. One mark had been added the day she died. The new note contained only 4 words, "Mother's photograph was wrong." Chen could not explain them. He remembered Xia Wei comparing old family pictures after an anonymous message arrived, but she had refused to show him the sender. Lin asked whether anyone outside the family knew which photographs she kept. Chen named 2 people, his former wife, who had once visited the apartment, and Xia Wei's sister-in-law, Zhao Lan, whose husband was among the missing. Both had argued with Xia Wei in recent months. Lin met his former wife first, not because the evidence pointed toward her, but because the timeline demanded that every open door be tested. She acknowledged resenting the remarriage and admitted sending Xia Wei several angry messages. Yet hospital records, entry cameras, and a room full of patients placed her at work throughout the 12-minute window. Her shoe size did not match the partial print, and she provided DNA without resistance. The messages explained hostility, but they did not explain the apartment. Zhao Lan was harder to read. She arrived carrying the key to the house she had shared with Xia Wei's missing brother, and kept it clenched throughout the interview. She admitted arguing over property documents and accused Xia Wei of treating every practical question as proof of betrayal. Still, toll records showed Zhao traveling outside the city that afternoon, and a service station camera confirmed her location. Her DNA also failed to match the material under Xia Wei's fingernails. Another plausible story collapsed under evidence. By the second evening, Dr. Su Ning had stronger results. The tissue beneath Xia Wei's nails came from a woman. The fibers were consistent with a knitted glove, and the shoe impression suggested a narrow, flat sole around size 39. Su emphasized that none of those findings named a suspect. Lin wrote 3 words beneath the timeline: woman, prepared, invited. The intact lock meant Xia Wei had probably opened the door herself, and the attack began close enough to the entrance for her grocery bag to tear. Su then showed Lin a set of photographs taken under filtered light. Irritation around Xia Wei's eyes and a faint chemical trace on her sleeve suggested exposure to a defensive spray shortly before the struggle. The visitor had not simply lost control during an argument. She had arrived carrying a way to disorient Xia Wei. Lin asked the evidence team to identify the compound and requested purchase records once the brand range was known.
The investigation moved beyond personal grudges.
While the laboratory worked, Lin returned to the family disappearance file. Xia Wei's parents had run a private clinic and invested in property. Her brother managed part of the family business and collected antiques with their father. On the morning they vanished, the clinic opened late, the brother missed a school pickup, and 3 phones stopped transmitting within a narrow period. No ransom demand came. No verified sighting followed. Lin realized the old case had another silent window, only no one had measured it closely. He asked the original team to bring every photograph, access log, and witness statement back into one room. Among the images was a family banquet picture matching the flyer in Xia Wei's apartment. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Then, Chen's explanation of the red marks made Lin examine the background instead of the faces. A framed photograph on the wall appeared in 2 versions, taken minutes apart. In one, it leaned left. In the other, it had been straightened by someone standing outside the family group. The person was visible only as a blurred sleeve at the edge of the frame. The color could not be trusted under indoor lighting, but the gesture mattered. Someone familiar enough to enter the room had adjusted the photograph while the family posed. Lin did not know whether this was what Xia Wei meant. Yet the note proved she had been reviewing the same image. He sent it for enhancement and ordered officers to trace everyone who had attended that banquet, beginning with people omitted from the formal guest list. That night, the chemical report identified a common pepper-based spray sold through several online retailers. The result was broad, but it gave Lin something searchable. Before he could assign a purchase review, a camera analyst called from the district traffic center. She had found a woman entering Xia Wei's building during the 12-minute window. The stranger wore a red coat, gloves, a cap, and a mask. One day earlier, the same woman had passed the eastern gate twice, carrying a basket of vegetables she never took inside. The analyst played the 2 recordings side by side. On the first day, the woman in red crossed the eastern gate at 4:36, circled the courtyard, and left 7 minutes later. On the second, she entered at 6:01 and emerged at 6:09 without the vegetable basket. Her pace had changed. The day before, she paused beneath each camera. During the murder window, she kept her head lowered and moved directly toward Xia Wei's stairwell. Lin asked the analyst to follow her beyond the residential cameras. The red coat appeared at a pharmacy corner, vanished behind a delivery truck, then returned beside the southern road where several vehicles waited with engines running. One compact van pulled away less than a minute after she arrived. Its rear plate was obscured by mud, but a cracked left taillight and a white company decal gave the traffic unit something to search. The vegetable basket remained the strangest detail. When officers enlarged the earlier footage, they saw that the same bunch of greens sat upright through both passes, still wrapped with a blue band. She had not gone shopping. She had carried a reason to be outside without attracting attention. Lin marked the basket as a behavioral clue, not physical evidence. Whoever planned the visit had understood the neighborhood well enough to imitate its ordinary routines. At the laboratory, Su Ning compared the chemical residue with commercial pepper sprays sold online. The formulation was common, but one stabilizing agent narrowed the likely products to 4 brands. Lin's team requested recent purchases delivered within the region, then filtered for orders containing gloves, flat shoes, masks, or edged tools. Thousands of transactions became hundreds, then 23. One order contained pepper spray and a narrow double-edged collector's knife, purchased within minutes of each other.
The buyer had used a prepaid account and a public computer, but the retailer still retained the session time, delivery address, and payment route. The order originated from an internet cafe in the Southern District, 19 days before Xia Wei died. Payment came through a digital wallet, registered under a false name, funded in cash at a convenience kiosk. The delivery address belonged not to a woman, but to a freelance courier named Wu Nan. Lin did not arrest Wu immediately. He placed the courier under surveillance and sent officers to the internet cafe with the transaction time. The manager kept 30 days of video because customers occasionally disputed charges. At 2:14 that afternoon, a woman in a gray sweater sat at Terminal 41. She removed her mask to drink water, exposing a narrow face and a small scar near her left eyebrow. The camera held her image for 6 clear seconds. The cafe register identified her as Zhang Li, 36, using an expired identification card. Records showed she had once worked in an accounting office 2 provinces away. She had resigned abruptly, stopped renewing her apartment lease, and cut regular contact with her family. During the previous year, her online activity had shifted toward private forums, promising spiritual guidance, emotional rebirth, and absolute loyalty to a chosen partner. Lin treated the history as context, not an excuse. More important was what Zhang had done after leaving the cafe. Street cameras showed her meeting Wu Nan behind a wholesale market. She handed him a receipt, and he later collected the parcel under his own name. 2 weeks afterward, his van traveled to Xia Wei's district on the day before the murder, then returned during the 12-minute window. The cracked taillight matched the vehicle that had collected the woman in red outside the southern road. Officers searched public records for a connection among Zhang Li, Wu Nan, and Xia Wei. They found none. No shared employer, property dispute, school, clinic visit, or known relative linked them. Zhang had never called Xia Wei's number before the week of the murder. Yet cell tower data placed her near the family clinic twice during the month before the attack. Someone had taught her where Xia Wei lived, when she returned, and what information would make her open the door. The enhanced banquet photograph arrived that evening. The blurred sleeve belonged to a man standing just outside the formal group, but his face remained hidden behind another guest. A second photograph taken moments later showed Xia Wei's mother looking toward him with clear irritation. On the back, someone had written a date and 4 names. 3 belonged to the missing family. The 4th had been scratched away hard enough to damage the paper. Chen Ming recognized the handwriting as Xia Wei's. He also remembered why the photograph bothered her. Her mother always wore a jade pin at family events, a gift with a broken clasp that Xia Wei repaired herself. In the first image, the pin was on her mother's coat. In the second, taken minutes later, it was gone. Police had never listed the pin among missing property because no one knew it had disappeared before the family vanished. Lin placed the scratched photograph beside Zhang Li's cafe image and Wu Nan's vehicle record. The physical trail was tightening, but the motive remained outside the room. He ordered simultaneous teams to follow Jiang and Wu, rather than warn either one. Near midnight, surveillance watched Jiang enter an abandoned office above a closed travel agency. Wu arrived 12 minutes later, carrying a phone sealed inside a plastic bag. Before the blinds closed, Jiang looked down at the screen and began to cry. Jiang described 3 tests without calling them crimes. First, she had resigned from her job because he said money made her disloyal. Second, she had cut contact with her family because he said their concern was a form of control. The 3rd test required proof that she could remove an enemy from his life. He sent Xia Wei's photograph, address, schedule, and 1 private detail that would make her open the door. Jiang said the man never used the same account for long. He appeared through private forums, encrypted calls, and voice messages that vanished after playing. He promised a new life if she obeyed, then withdrew affection whenever she questioned him. Lin listened without interrupting, but he did not allow her to turn coercion into innocence. She had purchased the weapons, watched the building, crossed the threshold, and continued after Xia tried to escape. Manipulation explained the path. It did not erase the steps. The recovered phone preserved more than Jiang expected. Wu had disabled one setting incorrectly, leaving temporary copies of several audio files. In one, a man instructed Jiang to wear red, so the courier could identify her without speaking. In another, he warned Wu not to learn the victim's name. The clearest recording concerned the apartment door. "Mention the pin," the voice said. "She will think you know what happened to her mother." Lin returned to the banquet photograph and examined the missing pin again. If the caller knew Xia would recognize it, he had either witnessed the family gathering or learned the detail from someone who had. The scratched fourth name on the back became more important. Laboratory imaging recovered part of the original writing, 2 characters, the first matching the family surname. Lin asked Chen Ming for every photograph of Xia's brother, taken during the year before the disappearance. Chen arrived with a storage box and the expression of a man afraid to understand his own memories. He explained that Xia's brother had changed before vanishing. He borrowed money, argued with their father over property, and disappeared for days without explanation. Xia defended him in public, but recorded each inconsistency in private. In one photograph, the brother wore the jade pin on his lapel as a joke, while their mother reached to take it back. Someone else had taken the picture. The old disappearance now looked less coordinated. Clinic records showed Xia's parents had expected patients that afternoon. Her brother's child had waited at school. Yet one transaction occurred after all 3 phones went silent. A transfer from the family business into an account opened with documents belonging to the brother. The money moved again within hours, and eventually passed through companies that no longer existed. 6 months earlier, investigators had treated the transfer as evidence he was alive. Lin now saw it as staging. Near sunrise, the technician cleaned the final recovered recording. At first, only Jiang's breathing and the man's distorted voice could be heard. He told her Xia had spent 6 months poisoning people against him, and would destroy everything unless she was stopped. Then, Jiang asked why he could not speak to Xia himself. The man laughed once, softly, and answered with a sentence that changed both cases. "Because my sister always notices when I lie." Lin replayed the sentence until the room lost every other sound. "Because my sister always notices when I lie." Chen Ming closed his eyes before the recording ended. Xia Wei had only one brother, Xia Jin, one of the 3 people officially missing for 6 months. He had heard him laugh at family dinners, during arguments, and once over the phone the week before he vanished. The distortion was heavy, but the rhythm beneath it was familiar enough to make Chen grip the table. A forensic audio specialist refused to call recognition proof. She separated the signal, compared pauses, consonants, and breath patterns with old family videos, then produced a probability range rather than a verdict. The voice was strongly consistent with Xiao Jin, but Lin needed evidence showing he was alive, directing Jiang, and connected to the earlier disappearances. He ordered the missing man's financial history rebuilt from the day before the clinic opened late, not from the day police first noticed he was gone. The new review exposed a pattern hidden by the first investigation. Xiao Jun's identification had opened 2 accounts months before the family vanished. Money from the clinic passed through them, then into companies registered to vacant offices. One company purchased a small rehabilitation annex outside the city, a property once owned by Xia Wei's parents, and later sold on paper. Utility bills there remained low but never stopped. Someone had kept power running in an empty building for 6 months. Lin sent a quiet team to watch the annex, while detectives traced the company's directors. Each name belonged to a dead person, a migrant worker who denied involvement, or a clerk paid to sign forms she never read. The final transfer had been approved from an internet address near the coast. A camera from a nearby bank showed a man in a cap, using Xiao Jin's card, 3 weeks after the disappearance. His face was partly hidden, but a childhood fracture made his left shoulder sit lower than his right. Chen confirmed the uneven shoulder without hesitation. Xiao Jin had broken his collarbone at 14 and never completed physical therapy. The detail was not visible in the banquet photograph, but it appeared in family videos when he reached for food or lifted his daughter. Lin now had proof that the missing brother had likely survived beyond the day the others vanished. What he still lacked was proof that Xiao Jin had killed anyone, or that the people who disappeared with him had not survived as well. The answer began with Xiao Wei's final note. Mother's photograph was wrong. Lin returned to the 2 banquet images and stopped looking at the missing pin. In the second picture, Xia Wei's mother stood closer to the wall, but the framed photograph behind her had changed. It showed the family's rehabilitation annex before renovation. A narrow basement window appeared beneath the eastern stair. In later property records, that window had been covered, and the basement omitted from the floor plan. Just after noon, the surveillance team reported movement at the annex. A man matching Xiao Jun's build entered through a rear door carrying bottled water and left 20 minutes later in a borrowed sedan. Lin chose not to arrest him on the road. The building might contain evidence, another person, or a warning system that would be destroyed if Xiao Jun knew police were close. Instead, officers followed the sedan, while a second team secured a warrant based on fraud, abduction, and the recovered recordings. Wu Nan provided the last piece needed for speed. During his interview, he admitted driving to the annex twice before Xia Wei's murder. He never entered the main building, but he delivered sealed boxes and once heard a woman crying below ground. Xiao Jun told him it was a patient undergoing treatment. Wu also remembered a metal door beneath the eastern stairs and a strong disinfectant smell that remained on his clothes after he carried a package downstairs. By late afternoon, Lin's teams moved on both targets. Traffic officers stopped the borrowed sedan, 30 kilometers away, but Xiao Jun was no longer inside. The driver claimed a passenger had left near a bus station and paid cash. At the annex, investigators cut power, blocked the rear road, and entered through the main corridor. Dust covered the reception desk, yet fresh shoe marks crossed it toward the eastern stair. The building was empty above ground, but someone had used it recently. The basement door had been disguised behind a new plaster wall. Officers found its outline by comparing the old photograph with the renovated corridor, then removed the covering without forcing the lock. Cold air and disinfectant rose through the opening. The basement contained a cot, food containers, restraints fixed to one wall, and shelves of clinic supplies. No living person remained. On a table sat Xia Wei's mother's jade pin, its broken clasp repaired with the same thin silver wire Xiao had used years earlier. Su Ning entered after the scene was documented. Near the far wall, she noticed that one section of concrete dried a different shade from the rest. Ground-penetrating equipment revealed two irregular spaces beneath the floor. Lin stood beside the basement window shown in the photograph and understood why Xia Wei had written that her mother's picture was wrong. She had not been questioning the woman in the image. She had been questioning why a building connected to her family had been altered after they disappeared. The excavation team lifted the first section of concrete shortly before midnight. Beneath it lay fabric, a corroded watch, and human remains wrapped in clinic sheeting. A second bundle rested less than a meter away. Chen identified the watch from a photograph as belonging to Xia Wei's father. Before Su could begin formal recovery, Lin's phone rang from an unknown number. Xiao Jun spoke without distortion this time. "You found them," he said. "Now ask yourself why there are only two." Lin kept Xiao Jun talking while a technician traced the call through 3 relays. Jun sounded calm, almost amused, but he answered too quickly whenever Lin mentioned the bodies. He claimed his parents had planned to disappear and that Xia Wei had ruined everything by refusing to believe them. Lin asked about the third missing person. Jun replied, "I was never missing. I was waiting for her to stop looking." The trace narrowed to a freight corridor west of the bus station before the call ended. At the annex, Su Ning supervised the recovery of both bodies. Dental records and the repaired watch identified Xia Wei's parents. Their deaths had occurred close to the day they vanished, and neither body showed signs of a voluntary departure. Inside the basement, technicians found fibers from Xiao Jun's old coat, medication records bearing his handwriting, and soil matching the borrowed sedan. The scene no longer suggested a family escape. It showed confinement, murder, and 6 months of careful staging. Lin rebuilt the first crime from the decisions that followed it. Xiao Jun had diverted clinic money, and his father discovered the transfers. His mother threatened to report him and remove him from the family business. Jun arranged a meeting at the annex, where the argument became violence. Afterward, he used their phones and accounts to create the appearance of travel, then disappeared under his own name before suspicion could settle on him.
Xia Wei's refusal to accept that story became the final threat.
The scratched name on the banquet photograph provided a bridge. Imaging specialists recovered enough ink to show that Xia Wei had written her brother's name beside the date, then tried to erase it after doubting herself. The jade pin had vanished during the gathering because June took it while arguing with his mother in a side room. Months later, he described the pin to Zhang Li and used it as proof that Xia Wei could trust the stranger outside her door. Police searched the freight corridor while Lin returned to Zhang. This time he played Xia Jun's unaltered call. Her face changed before the voice finished. June had told her his sister was dangerous, wealthy, and responsible for separating him from his family. He had never said the missing parents were dead or that he had taken their money. Zhang listened to the evidence in silence. Then she gave Lin the emergency phrase June used whenever he needed a new pickup location. Wu Nan recognized the phrase too. He explained that June paired ordinary words with places from old clinic advertisements. The final message Zhang had received referred to fresh air by the Western Harbor, which Wu interpreted as a disused medical supply warehouse near the freight tracks. Traffic cameras found the borrowed sedan parked 2 blocks away. Officers sealed the surrounding streets, but Lin entered with a small arrest team because June had already shown he would use other people to protect himself. Inside the warehouse, rows of empty shelves divided the main floor into narrow aisles. A radio played quietly near an office at the rear, masking footsteps from the loading bay. Lin announced the warrant and ordered June to come out. A chair moved behind the office wall. Then a side door opened, and June ran toward the loading platform carrying a backpack. He dropped it when officers blocked the ramp, but kept one hand inside his coat until Lin called his name. June stopped at the sound of his sister's surname, spoken back to him. Lin told him the annex had been opened, his parents identified, and Zhang's DNA matched the murder scene. June looked toward the tracks, as though another vehicle should have been waiting. None came. When he finally raised both hands, the movement exposed the same lowered left shoulder seen on the bank camera. Officers restrained him without a struggle and recovered several phones, cash, and his mother's missing account cards. The backpack contained no weapon. It held forged documents, storage keys, and printed profiles of people June had contacted through private forums. Each profile recorded family conflict, financial dependence, loneliness, and the phrases most likely to trigger fear of abandonment. Zhang's page was marked with 3 completed boxes. Wu's had 2. Xia Wei's profile was different. It listed her routines, her search efforts, and one sentence underlined twice: "She will open the door for evidence about her mother." During questioning, June denied ordering murder. He claimed Zhang misunderstood a test of loyalty and acted from jealousy. Lin answered with the recovered recordings, the purchase instructions, the false story about Xia Wei, and the timing message sent minutes before Zhang entered the building. June then blamed Wu for transportation and Zhang for violence. Each attempt narrowed his defense, because the evidence showed he had separated the tasks deliberately, so no participant understood the entire plan. The final break came from one of the storage keys. It opened a rented locker containing the original clinic ledgers, the missing phones, and a camera Xia Jun had used to record the annex entrance. The files showed him arriving with both parents on the day they vanished, leaving alone, then returning with cleaning supplies. 6 months later, another clip captured him instructing Wu where to deliver sealed boxes. The same device preserved his voice before any distortion software touched it. By dawn, Lin had enough to charge Xia Jun in both cases, but he returned once more to the interview room. He placed Xia Wei's red-marked notebook on the table and opened it to the last page. Her final question was not about money or property. She had written, "Why would my brother need strangers to lie for him?" Jun stared at the line, and for the first time, his composure failed. Lin closed the notebook. "Because she noticed," he said, "and you knew she would keep looking." 3 months later, the 2 cases entered the same courtroom. Prosecutors did not ask the judges to trust a single confession. They built the story from independent chains: Jiang Li's DNA inside Xia Wei's struggle,
Wu Nan's vehicle and delivery records, Xia Jun's recordings, the stolen clinic money, and the basement beneath the annex. Each chain began somewhere different. All of them ended with the same family and the same man who had tried to disappear behind other people's choices. Jiang testified after accepting responsibility for entering the apartment and killing Xia Wei. She described the 3 tests, the withdrawals of affection, and the false stories that turned a stranger into an enemy. When Jun's attorney suggested she had acted alone from obsession, prosecutors played the message, naming the jade pin and Xia Wei's schedule. Jiang did not ask the court to forgive her. She said manipulation had narrowed her world, but she had still crossed the threshold and continued when Xia Wei fought back. Wu Nan admitted collecting the parcel, driving the van, and waiting with the engine running. He insisted he never saw the knife and never knew the victim's name. The judges answered with his deleted messages, the 2 trips to the annex, and the recording he had preserved for his own protection. His fear proved that he understood the assignment was dangerous. His decision to remain outside the apartment changed his role, but it did not erase the help that made the murder possible. Xia Jun continued denying that he had ordered anyone to kill. He called the recordings fantasies, the financial transfers business decisions, and the basement an unauthorized clinic room. Then, prosecutors showed the camera files from the storage locker. The courtroom watched Jun arrive at the annex with both parents, leave alone, and return with cleaning supplies. His unaltered voice told Wu where to deliver the boxes. For the first time, Jun had no stranger left to stand between him and the evidence. The court found that Jun killed his parents to conceal the theft of family assets, staged his own disappearance, and later directed Xia Wei's murder when her search threatened to expose him. Jiang was convicted as the direct killer. Wu was convicted for knowingly supporting the plan and escape. Jun and Jiang received the maximum sentences available under the court's judgment. Wu received a lengthy prison term. The ruling separated their responsibilities without pretending that any one of them had acted in isolation. After the verdict, Xia Wei's parents were buried beside her beneath 3 simple stones. Chen Ming brought no speech. He placed the repaired jade pin between the parents' photographs, then gave Xia Wei's red-marked notebook to Lin Kai. The final pages contained rumors, crossed-out names, and questions she had never answered. Lin returned it unopened after the evidence period ended. He told Chen that the case had been solved because Xia kept recording what other people wanted forgotten. A week later, Chen entered the apartment for the last time before moving. The blood had been removed, the floor repaired, and the furniture returned. But he still saw the path from the doorway to the bedroom. In the freezer, police had left a replacement bag of the same buns because the originals were evidence and could not be returned. Chen steamed 4. Set 1 bowl beside Xia Wei's photograph and opened her notebook to the sentence about strangers lying for her brother. Below that sentence, Chen drew 1 red line. He wrote, "Confirmed." Then he listened to Xia Wei's final voice message, the one about dinner surviving until he came home. Her laugh filled the quiet kitchen without changing what had happened there. Chen did not answer the recording or promise that everything was finished. He closed the notebook, turned off the stove, and left the apartment key on the table beside the bowl she had never used. For Lin, the case ended with reports, archived exhibits, and 1 correction to the old missing person file. He removed the phrase "probable voluntary departure" and replaced it with the findings from the annex. Su Ning signed the final identification forms. The camera analyst stored the red coat footage with the digital evidence. By every legal and forensic measure, the murders were solved, the dead were identified, and the people responsible had been convicted. Only the seized forum data remained under review. 4 months after the verdict, a digital evidence technician found a folder that had not belonged to Xia Jun's main account. It contained no names from the trial and no instructions connected to Xia Wei. Instead, it held incomplete profiles of people Jun had contacted, but never fully recruited. Most accounts were abandoned. One had continued receiving messages after his arrest, using language nearly identical to the 3 tests, but sent from a different administrator whose location could not be established. In another northern city, a woman sat alone at a kitchen table after midnight. A packed suitcase stood beside the door. On her phone, family photographs had been deleted, her employer's number blocked, and a message confirmed that she had resigned that afternoon. She placed her wedding ring beside the screen, took a picture, and uploaded it to the private account. A reply appeared almost immediately. You have completed the first 2 proofs. Do not contact anyone from your former life. The woman typed that she was ready for the final proof. A new message arrived with an encrypted image attached. This person has been keeping us apart, it said. Remove them, and you will never be abandoned again. The download bar moved slowly across the screen. At the evidence lab, the technician watched the same account activate and called Lin Kai. Before either of them could open the file, the image finished loading on the woman's phone.